How's it going, everyone? What do I got today? I've got a 2006 Chevy Silverado. It's hit in the front. It was a total loss vehicle. We bought it at auction. Runs fantastic. Basically, we bought it for the bed and the interior. We have another truck outside that has a trashed bed and a trashed interior, but it's got low mileage on it. And so this interior and bed is going to go on that truck. And the engine that's in this truck, it's a 5.3, is going to go into a truck that I own. I have a truck outside that has a 5.3 in it, and the problem is the truck I have has got very low oil pressure, and it's knocking, or tapping actually. I got a funny feeling on my truck. It's just a O-ring on the oil pump pickup at the oil pump itself. But considering my truck's got 230,000 miles on it, and this motor runs fantastic, for the amount of work involved to get to the oil pump, I may as well just swap the motors. So I have this motor here, so I'm putting in my 2 cents to buy this motor from the shop, so this way I could use it for my truck. So I'm going to be pulling this truck apart today. Let me show you what I got. This one right here. It's actually not a terrible hit. Still has Freon in it, and that's our old antiquated machine, but it works for sucking down AC. That's really all we use it for. But there you see the old 5.3, and that's going to come out, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to wind up, taking a radiator condenser, all that other stuff out, since I got to do it anyway. Also, I do drain all the fluids in the process of taking the stuff out, just because it makes life easier and you make less of a mess. I'm going to pull the intake off. I showed you in previous videos how you can prop the hood up and still leave the hood on. Basically, you take this bolt on the hinge here and move it down to that spot, and then the hood stands straight up. So I'm going to take all of that off. I actually got to scan this first. I got to hook a charger up to it, but I got to scan it first because we need an ABS module for another truck. And the ABS module in this would work on that one, but we realized this one has an ABS light on. So I want to find out why it has an ABS light on. And if you look, the interior on this is pretty darn clean. So we're going to be pulling the dash and everything out of this truck. I mean, the seats are pretty clean. It didn't tear yet. I mean, it's worn, but it didn't tear yet. Whoever owned this truck really took care of it. It's got the rubber floor mat, which actually isn't torn up. So, and look at that, the steering wheel is mint on this thing. Usually these things get all destroyed up here. This was obviously somebody's work truck, but I'm thinking it was like an older person's truck who just really took care of it. I mean, it's actually in very nice shape. And the bed is good. It's got a bed liner in it, but it's a nice 8-foot bed. It's in good shape. Let's see. There's no trailer hitch on it, so that's also a good thing. That means nobody used it for anything. The other truck needs a rear bumper. This one has a slight bend to it, but I think we can adjust it. Yeah, so that seems to be about it. So I'll walk you through, the certain points when I'm taking it out. I'm going to put it up in the air. I'm by myself, so I got to do everything, the easy way for myself. I find it easier to pull the transmission out instead of trying to pull the engine and transmission out as an assembly. Because I got to take the torque converter bolts off anyway if I pulled it out as an assembly, because I'd have to separate them. At that point, I may as well just pull a tranny out. It's 2-wheel drive, so it's not that difficult. So I'm going to work on that. Once I get the engine and transmission out, then I'm going to start unbolting everything in the interior, taking door panels and stuff like that off, because they're going to go into that other truck. So, yeah. So that's it for right now. Let me get going on this, and I'll keep you posted as I go along. All right, so real quick, I got my scanner hooked up, and it looks like it's just ABS type codes. So I am not too concerned about that. So that's good. So that means the module on this I should be able to take off, and I can use it for the other vehicle. Yeah, so that's it. All right, so I got, as you can see, the headlights are out, the grill is out and stuff like that. I mean, most of that stuff just came out real quick and easy. What I start to do is I start to take out any bolts I find up top, to be totally honest with you. And I save them. I save all the hardware. So what I'm doing right now is we have another truck outside that actually has a bent radiator support, but it's a 2500. So I'm not quite sure if the radiator supports are the same between the 2500 and the 1500. So, but I got a funny feeling they might be. So I think the only difference actually is this support. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start detrimming a lot of stuff up top first, since I'm right here. Then I'll set it up, put it up in the air, and then I'll drain the coolant. I'm actually going to drain the tranny fluid from up here. I have that device here that's you put air pressure to it and it creates a vacuum, and it just sucks the fluid out. So I'm going to do that. This way it just doesn't make a mess. It's just an easier way of doing things. So let me just keep going, unbolting stuff from up top, and then I'll put it up in the air. All right, so here we go. We're up in the air. I'm going to take the shield down. I'm going to drain the coolant. I'm going to drain the oil. I already sucked the fluid out of the tranny, but it still has some fluid in it, but there's nothing I can do about that. I'm not really too concerned. Put that on. I'm going to take the exhaust out because we can use that on another truck that we have here that has a messed up exhaust. Take the dry shaft out. This rear end, we're going to pull this out too, but we're probably going to leave it in the truck for now so we have a rolling chassis. Because this is a drum brake rear. The disc brake rear is slightly different. Obviously it's got disc brakes, but the disc brake rear on the earlier ones is, the actual difference is these, you can actually swap over the disc brakes onto this, or you can convert the other one to drums. I've known people that have done it and it has worked, but it's an identical width and everything else. You know, it just can't be done. But we get more of a call for these with the drum brakes for some reason. I don't know, people seem to blow these things up a little more, even though it's the same rear end. I think they do one-leggers all over the place with it and blow the spider gears out of them. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the dry shaft out, take the exhaust out. I'm going to drop the transmission out of this thing. There's the ABS unit. I'm going to take that out. Like I said, we need that for another truck. I'm actually going to drain the gas tank out. I'm going to unbolt the bed. And I may as well undo the parking brake cables and stuff like that. So then this way, we don't have to worry about that for when the time comes to actually take the rear end out. Let's see, what else am I going to take off of this? Oh, and it's got one of those, I forgot what the heck this thing is. It's like a fuel pressure pulsator module, something or other. I forgot what the heck this is called. I haven't messed with one in a while. I'm going to pull the white pipe off of it and go from there. It's a pretty clean motor considering it's got 200,000 miles on it. The adapter here for if it had oil cooler, that's what this is. These things leak constantly on these. I'm almost thinking, judging by how clean that motor is, that this thing's been replaced. I'll know more once I get it out. Yeah, it's been replaced. That's good news for me. That means it actually doesn't have 200,000 miles on it. I don't see any tags from here, but I might see someone to get it apart. So, okay, let me get going with that. And I'm just curious, this wheel's actually driven back. I don't know why. I don't see a bent control arm. They look identical, the lowers. The upper might be bent, and I just can't see it. I don't know. But this wheel's definitely driven back. Look how close it is here compared to this side. But where is it driven back? Is it driven back because of this being bent? I doubt very highly the frame is bent because it took a shot in the wheel. So more than likely the control arms are bent. Well, whatever, that doesn't really matter. Oh, look at that, it's got new brake pads on it. Okay. So, oh yeah, and then the other thing too is I'm going to have to get this bumper off, and I got to take the radiator support bushings out, because I got to take the whole radiator support out. It's a little bit of a pain in the neck since you got the fenders on, but I can do it. All right, so let me get going on that. All right, so there we go. I got the radiator and condenser out. I unbolted everything and pulled it out. I didn't like cut anything because I want to try to save this radiator support. So now I'm going to drop the front bumper off. The radiator support is held in place by a bracket on this side, the mount there, the mount on the other side, and I believe there are some screws hidden behind there that I got to find. I know there is on this side. In there, I got to get to. So yeah, let me work on that next. I'll keep going from there. All right, so the radiator support is out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these hoses off so I don't have to deal with them. I'm going to take the water pump off the front of the motor. This way I don't have to deal... Well, actually, yes, I am. I'm going to take the water pump off the front of the motor. Reason being is because on the other truck, I'm not going to take the radiator support out. And when you drop it in place, it's just easier to not have the water pump in place. So I'm going to take the water pump off now. I'm going to take the accessories off of here. I'm also going to take the intake off. It's much easier to do it now instead of, leaning over the radiator support. Undo the hoses. I'm going to take the wiring harness off. I'm going to take it off in one piece. I don't cut anything. I prefer not to. It just makes for a cleaner job doing it that way. So I'm going to do that now. I guess once I get that stuff stripped off of there, I'll show you. There's really nothing special about it. Once you drop the belts off of this thing, even if you were doing it in a car, you could take the power steering off of the bracket. I prefer to take the bracket out, and usually what I'll do is I'll press the pulley off so this way I can get to the bolts that hold the pump to the bracket. Because the bracket, if you leave it in the bay, it winds up taking up so much, and it just, to me, it creates a problem. I'd rather spend a couple minutes extra taking something off and then having a clean job going in and out than leaving something in place and then fighting with it. I hate fighting with anything. So to me, that just makes my life much easier. I'll spend a couple minutes, take the stuff apart, and I don't have to fight with it. Just zen. Yeah, you got it. So that's what I'm going to do right now, get that apart. All right, so now with the water pump off, I got the hoses disconnected, obviously. I took the power steering cooler off. Basically, that's just the clamps that held it on there. Then I pulled the line off of there. And so now, really, it's that bolt there, that one there, and it should come right out, that whole bracket. I'm going to disconnect the alternator up there. I'm just going to leave it all together as an assembly when I take it out. Now, what else I want to show you after I got all of that off, I got a battery pack hooked up to this. I ran to the fuel line with this piece of tubing, and I'm running into a gas can. And then I have the fuel pump relay jumped right there with my little handy relay jumper. And basically what I'm doing is I'm draining out the gas tank. This thing has about a half a tank of gas, and it's good gas, so you don't want to just leave it sitting inside the tank, because this thing's going to go out in the yard. So this way we get all the fuel out of it. This way, I run the pump just to run the tank empty, and this way we have gas to use on something else. Recycle and repurpose. Why put it to waste, right? All right, so I wound up having to cut the one flange off the cat pipe, which I kind of didn't want to, but wound up I had to. And the reason I had to, because I didn't even realize it, is look how bent the frame is there and there. I actually didn't realize it was that kinked. I knew the frame was bent, I just didn't think it was that bad. So that stud on the exhaust was dead up against the frame. I wound up having to torch the stud off, and then I still couldn't get it out because the flange was dead up against the frame. So I said, ah, the heck with it. So I just sawzalled it and got that off. So I sawzalled the tranny lines off right there. The reason for that is because they're rotted down here. I was going to try to save the fuel lines, but I was like, ah, the hell with it. Not like I need them for anything. So let's see. I don't have to worry about the tranny cooler lines because they're coming off with it. Obviously, I got the cross member out that goes right here. The wiring harness all disconnected. If you're ever pulling one of these out, it's actually not that hard. This harness runs down over this frame mount, but under the body, over to the back here. And that's for the front O2 on this side and the rear O2 on this side. And it's really not that difficult to undo. And then you can just pull it up and out. This way you don't have to fight with the harness up top. So I think the last thing I need to worry about are the 3 motor mount bolts on each side, and then this whole assembly is ready to come out. I did leave those in on purpose, only because I knew I was going to be pulling a cross member out, and at least this way I still have something holding the assembly together. Alright, so let me let it down and get those bolts out. Alright, so now the motor mount bolts, there's 3 of them. There's one here, right behind, and then same on the other side. Now what I do notice is this thing's tweaked a bit, and it's probably because the frame is bent. So So hopefully I can get on the inside one there. That might be a little bit of a nightmare. So let me try getting those out. And I also noticed the steering shaft is pretty darn close to the frame, so that tells me this whole thing is tweaked over. All right, let's see how I do this. All right, so there we go. We're ready to come out with it. The frame right where the mounts go is tweaked, so I'm gonna have to mess with this a bit to get this thing out of where it's sitting. On this side, it's jammed up, but it's coming free. You can see it's up, but it's still bound up on the back side. So let me get this thing out of the engine bay, and like I said, the wiring harness and everything's coming out with it. So let me just get this out of there. All right, so there it goes. It's out. The whole thing is out. And it looks like it's a used motor, actually, that somebody put in this thing, because I see on this side, it says 03 Chevy. That's a junkyard motor. So who knows what the mileage actually is on this thing. Whatever. I really don't care, because it actually runs really good. Let's see. See, now since I sucked all the tranny fluid out of it, I left the tranny mess to a minimum. Let's see. Can you notice? See how bent that is? It's actually cocked like this compared to this side. And if you look, the frame is actually bent back in here. So I fought with that thing pretty good trying to get that thing out of there. I can't believe the airbags didn't blow off in this thing, because that's a substantial bend in the frame. But whatever. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, there's the cross member that sits underneath the engine. And if you look, you see it's straight over there, and when it comes to this side, it's driven back. You can see it's actually bent. So I think we took a pretty damn good shot. So now the next step is I'm going to strip this thing down, just take the accessories and stuff off of it. Not a big deal. This way I can get it ready to be put into my truck that I have. Just so happens it's an 03, so it's going to have at least a period correct motor. Not that I care, because just like I said, this thing runs actually very well. So that's it. That's my day on this. I'm gonna let this thing down. I'm gonna take the tranny off it. Originally I was gonna pull the motor out separate of the tranny, or tranny separate of the motor, but since I took the whole radiator support out, I figured it was just as easy to do it this way and then pull the thing out now. Obviously when I do my truck, I'm going to pull the motor out and leave the tranny in the truck. So I guess that's it for now. Yeah, let me strip this thing down. I'm not going to bother with a video for that. I guess that's it. If you guys like my video, hit the like button. If you could, please subscribe. I guess that's about it. Recommend your friends, please, because I really need to get my subscribers up, and I would really appreciate it. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and keep wrenching.